I hope I'm audible. Guys, do let me know if I'm audible. I hope I'm audible. Yes, okay, great. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. Apologies. I think there was a technical glitch which I did not notice. So again, I was saying that in today's discussion, we'll be talking about the natural language processing. So we have been discussing about natural language processing about quite some time back. So I'll try to finish the NLP technique today, right? So most of the functions which is remaining, we discuss about tokenization, we discuss about lemmatization, stemming, and all that. So I'll try to figure the remaining concepts of NLP. I'll try to finish it today, and then we can go a quick recap, maybe a summary tomorrow, and then we can go for a live demo. So I'll show it to you how exactly when you have a CSV file or when we have some external problem statement, right? So how you proceed, so how you connect the dots. So we'll be talking about the concepts one by one, right? But again, eventually you have to formulate the things in a straight go. So you won't be asked to do a lemmatization or a stemming for say, right? So you'll be given a problem statement. You have to figure out what to do and how to work on that, right? So that's basically it. So we'll be doing a demo. So we'll be doing a problem statement live. So I'll do that, and then once that is finished, so maybe post next week we can discuss about Rasa, so our online chatbots. So we'll try to make one chatbot in our class. So we'll do that. Cool. But before proceeding, as always, let's have a quick round of introduction, guys. Again, please bear with me for this. So we have a mandatory promotion in that. So my name is Arpit Jain. I'm a senior data scientist myself. I have 9 years of industry experience. Along with that, I'm also a motivational speaker. So I've been working into multiple industries, coming from the finance, banking to manufacturing, automobile, telecommunication. And along with that, as I said, so I take industry sessions. I talk to students regarding their job careers. So any concerns regarding data science, regarding job, so whatsoever, do put up your question in the chat. So we'll try to take up that as well. As part of our subjects, so we'll be talking about Python, SQL, data science. So Python we started, I think, almost about a couple of months back. We are solving the problems from HackerRank and the lead codes. So that's part of our agenda. We are doing that. And also the SQL we started about a month and a half back. We are doing again the problems from the HackerRank lead codes for our compute programming. So for the interview purposes. So we're solving the problems from the competitive websites. And also on the data science part, we have been introducing multiple concepts. So we discussed about visualizations, and now we are into NLP. So we are doing that. But again, before proceeding further, you have a code right in front of your screen, which is Python 10. So if you're going to use the code Python 10, you're going to get a free Relevel sample test paper for you. Right. So guys, again, as I said, please bear with me. It's a mandatory promotion. So many times candidates do miss out on the great opportunities due to multiple reasons, right? So it could be like they don't have a better degree. Better degree, by that we mean that you're not having a degree from a tier A universities, or you don't have the right networking. So you don't know the right set of people to ask for referrals. Again, a very, very important criteria to get your job, right? So again, you might be seeing that your resume is not getting shortlisted even with the 100 other applicants for the same job, right? So that could be the reason, because your resume might not be having the right keywords, or you I would say in that sense might not be in the right keywords, or there's something which is totally beyond your control, right? So you cannot really take care of that. And also you're applying to a number of jobs, but still you're not getting even a single interview call. So very practical problem. Many people do face that issue. It's a very practical problem. And to cater these issues only, guys, Relevel has been introduced, and it's India's first test setting platform by Unacademy, which is helping you to get your dream job, right? So how exactly it's happening? So here you're purely dependent on your skills and talent. Okay, so you're not at all dependent on any sort of degree or any people networking. So if you're skilled enough, if you're knowledgeable enough, you will be getting your job, right? So that's very straightforward. So as I said, it's most of a I would say a testing platform, right? So the only expectation here is to get the best score out of your test, right? So that's the only way you can get your job here. So here, as I said, so you're not dependent on any sort of degree. So It's pure, simple, your knowledge. If you're skilled enough, if you're knowledgeable enough, you should be getting the best score. And based on your score, the companies will reach out to you. So that's how simple it is, right? So there are certain other benefits also if you participate in the Relevel testing platform. So as I was saying, so at least 50 plus companies, including the top startups and even the unicorns, are hiring directly from the Relevel platform, and that those include ENY, Upgrad, Cred, Razorpay, Urban Company, and many more. So they're hiring directly from the Relevel platform, right? At least 100,000 plus open job positions right now, guys, from 3 different portfolios: business development, front-end development, and the back-end development. And also there are multiple roles available within these, like I'll be talking about them. So, and again, the good thing is it's completely online. You're not paying even a single penny to attempt this test. Sorry, I mean, it's completely online, so you're not actually being present physically anywhere to be part of this test. And the best part is completely free, as I was saying earlier. So you can attempt this test for completely free. You're not paying even a single penny to be part of this test. So it's just like you have to be mentally present for your test. And the only expectation from you is to finish the entire test in a single day, right? And that day could be of your choice. And the scores will be revealed in a week's time, right? So and again, as I said, it's a testing platform, so there is a qualifying score as well. So you're expected to score at least I would say 70% of marks, so that is 700 out of 1000. So this is what you have to score to make your Relevel profile. Again, higher the better, obviously, right? So again, in any unfortunate situation, if you're not able to make up to this score, you can always reattempt the test, but that can happen only after 30 days, right? So there's a time gap of 30 days. And again, if you're one of the top scorers, you will be awarded with some exciting goodies like MacBook, iPhone, and many more, right? So that's again a bigger charm for you. So with this Relevel, guys, you are in a unique position to invite interest from the companies instead of you hunting for your own opportunities, right? So it's like once you've given the test, just sit back and relax. The companies will start reaching out to you based on your scores post 1 week of your test, right? So registration also is quite easy, guys. The link is there in the description. Please go through that. The very first thing would be asked from you to choose the test of your choice, like the business development, front end, and the back end development. Multiple sub roles available within these, like the sales associate, the customer engagement associate from the business development, front end engineer, Angular developer, web developer from front end, back end engineer, data engineer from back end. Likewise, multiple roles available within these. So depending on your interest, depending on your skill sets, you can choose the test of your choice. The next is the date of your test, right? So the slots are limited. It's a beta platform, so I would request you to book it fast. And once you've chosen the date of your choice, the last thing would be to fill up the demographics, like the full name, email ID, birth year, and the current status, the current state, along with your gender. And at the last, you have an option of a promo code, so you can always use the code Python10 here. So if you're going to use the code Python10, you're going to get a free bonus sample test paper for you, right? So if you have used the code Python10, this is how the dashboard should look like for you. So you have an option of a practice tab here. So practice tab has one of the sample Relevel test paper. So you can download this sample test paper. It will be having the replica questions. I mean, this is what you can expect from the actual Relevel platform, right? So once you have practiced this, so I mean, definitely you should be ready for your D-Day. Right, so guys, at least register it for once. It's anyway free, of course, right? So you're not paying even a single penny for this. So try it for once. If you feel that you're not getting benefited, you can always take your decision elsewise later. But at least try it for once. So again, the link for registration is there in the YouTube description, guys. Please do it once. With this, again, you know, we have an official Telegram channel. Link is there in the description again. So for any live updates, for upcoming schedules, this is a one-place stop for you guys. So do not forget to join this channel. So all the live updates for the schedules and the classes will be published here. Right, so at last, I would request you to do like, share, and subscribe to the video. If you feel that you are getting benefited, do like and share the video, guys. So that's the least we can ask from you. Cool. So with this, guys, we are back into the NLP functions. So again, I would recommend if anybody has any questions, so do put up your question from NLP, like the things which we have discussed so far. right? And if anybody has any concerns, any doubts, any questions, so I'm okay to take up those. But again, what I was thinking, like maybe I can just give you a quick recap of what we discussed so far. So I won't take much time in that because it's been quite some time. But again, if anybody has any specific questions, do let me know. So meanwhile, I'm giving you like 10 seconds of break. So just to think if you have anything to talk about. Okay, so let's begin in that sense. So we've been talking about the NLP techniques, right? So basically why NLP was required. So NLP is more of you can think of the machine way of communicating with the humans, right? So humans can talk to humans with the way they write, read, and speak, right? But the machines cannot understand these things, right? So that is where NLP was introduced. Is more of a technique where the machines can understand or manipulate the human language, right? So like English, Hindi, Marathi, Bengali, I mean German, French, right? So all of these languages which the humans speak, they can always communicate with machines with the help of NLP technique. That's why NLP has been introduced, more of a natural language processing, right? So how does a machine interpret, right? So ultimately everything boils down to number. So machine cannot understand the text, right? So the whole objective here is like we have to convert the text into the numbers, right? And that's the whole game is all about, right? So we have to understand that how we can convert the text into numbers. So all of these the components of NLPs which we talked about, it's talking about how we process how we process the language to make sure that the machine understands these concepts, right? So we discussed about four basic processing: morphological process, syntax, semantic, and the pragmatic, right? So morphological is a step where we convert the data into more of my tokens, right? So individual words. So if I have a sentence, the smaller piece of sentence is like the chunks of the smaller chunk is more of called as the words, right? So that's what I call as tokenization. So the concept of tokenization, to break up your larger piece of information into the smaller pieces, that's what we call as tokens, and that's what the morphological process is talking about. The syntax, the second is syntax. So syntax is the second component where we are trying to understand whether the sentence is well formed or not, right? So based on the chunks of my information, how the two independent chunks are connected with each other. So what is the relationship between the two words, like the bigram analysis, the unigram analysis. So that's where my syntax comes into picture, right? Semantic, like now here from the relationships of the words, I'm trying to make out the meaningfulness of the text, like whether that text is making, I mean, sense or not. It's like how the meaningfulness of the text is, right? So that's where my semantic analysis comes. Like for example, the sentence like it's a hot ice cream. So I mean, the ice cream cannot be hot, right? So that's basically understanding the meaningfulness of the text, right? So that's where your semantic analysis comes. Cool. The last is like the pragmatic analysis, right? So here we are taking the references of multiple objects, and then we're trying to put the more of a the logical bondings and the meaningfulness of the sentences. Like we can think of the inter words bondings here, right? So and trying to understand whether the actual events have occurred or not. So it's more of the logical meaningfulness of my sentences, right? So that's where the pragmatic analysis comes. That's my last component. And definitely, and applications are more, so we can just keep on talking about the applications like fighting and all that. So web search, grammar correction, sentiment analysis, speech engines, multiple applications, right? And that's where each of these applications comes, and we discuss about the implementation part. So multiple way we can implement these NLP tools. The technique which we are talking about in our channel is NLTK, so Natural Language Toolkit. The others are basically from Java or from other languages, where we again have an option from to implement by NLP techniques. But NLTK, the Natural Language Toolkit, is the most prominent one used in the Python. So that's where we'll be talking about the NLTK, right? And definitely this NLTK has multiple components. All the all the techniques and the concepts which we discuss about, like stemming, lemmatization, tokenization, punctuation, word count, everything, whatever we know about the words, right? So that's part of my NLTK. So that's how it starts. So let me jump to the notebook, guys. So let me quickly open the notebook for you, and then let's just start talking about just a minute, let me open that. I hope this is the one. Cool, doesn't look like it's opening up. Right, so I hope my screen is visible. Right, so we started talking about NLTK, right? So in NLTK, this is a package, this is a high-end package or the high-level API, what we call as a wrapper class, where all the dependent functionalities of my natural language processing is available, right? And it's part of my Python SDK. So in this Python, you have the NLTK package. It's like you can just install the NLTK one for you, right? And you can always use this function NLTK.download, which downloads all the dependencies available within to run all of your individual components of NLTK, right? So you can just use NLTK and you can just download the dependencies of NLTK internally. Right. So now the very first process we discuss about in natural language processing is tokenization, right? The morphological process, if you remember that, right? So here, as you remember, we are talking about breaking up of my larger pieces of information into the smaller pieces, right? So that's what. And for example, suppose if my piece of information is a sentence, like for example, say, I love my country, right? So I have 4 individual words here, right? It's like I love my country. So I have 4 words here, right? So the smaller pieces of information available in a sentence are words, right? And for the other way, if I have a paragraph, right? So if I have say 10 lines of sentences. So here, my first level of tokens, first level of, I would say the breakup tokens are basically my sentences, right? So the smaller pieces of information from my paragraph is sentences, right? And internally, so the sentences can further be broken down into words. Cool. So for the tokenization, so you have the function called as, the component, the more of a sub library here is tokenize. So in this tokenize, you have the multiple tokenization options, right? So I would say more of a function. So we'll be talking about some very interesting functions for respectively for tokenization. In fact, there are multiple ways where you can tokenize, right? So we'll be looking on that. So the very standard way of a very standard function available within NLTK tokenize is word tokenize, right? So word tokenize, what it does is basically splits up your sentence. Is basically splits your sentence into the smaller words. For example, as I said, you can see this. I have just imported the word tokenize from NLTK tokenized module. And in this, when I'm going to call the word tokenize over my sentence, which is I love my country, you can see that it is returning me the words, basically the split up words of my sentence. Cool, very cool. So it's basically working as like a text.split. So it's like more of that sort of function. So it's splitting up my the text, right? So that's what it does. And then again, we have another wrapper class available within Tokenize is called as TreeBankWordTokenizer. Okay, this is again a very standard tokenized module available within NLTK Tokenize, TreeBankWordTokenizer. It is basically working similar to word tokenize only, but again in some of the other edge cases, it gives you some different results. So the word tokenize and the TreeBankWordTokenizer, they both work hand in hand. There are certain internal rules which is being specified to each of these the wrapper classes, right? And then those based on these rules only, they have some or the other places different results when we call these two, right? But again, they both almost give you the similar results most of the times. But again, we also discuss about in stemming and lemmatization, there are multiple ways of stemming, right? So I mean, again, the whole concept of multiple ways is like they all have different set of rules available within, right? So you might have to try one or the other, so to find out whether which rule is giving you the better result. I mean, more closer to reality results. What is the expected result, right? So everything and anything cannot work well for you, right? So you have to figure out. It's more of a hit and trial. That's what we call as it in data science. So you have to apply and then check and then compare. What did you expect? What did you expect, and what did you get? Right. So that's where we find out. So TreeBankWordTokenizer and Tokenize, they both work in hand, but again, based on certain internal rules, they might give you some different results every other time. Cool. So again, so here the problem happens is a place where there are certain edge conditions. Like for example, I have certain punctuations available within my sentences. Like for example, let's look at this. So I have hello, comma, how are you? And sometimes I have a sentence like, why don't you come here? So I have again a punctuation which is a apostrophe here, so between don't. So can you see this? Once I've used the tokenized component, which is like TreeBankWordTokenizer, I have not actually got the things which I was expecting. So here technically, hello, how are you are only the 4 tokens which I should be getting, right? Technically. But it is also taking this comma as a separate word, right? So this is not correct. So this is not the real, this is not what I wanted from the module to work, right? Because if you're going to run something on top of comma, it is not going to give you the results. It's not going to give you any fruitful meaningfulness of your word, right? So this is slightly incorrect in that fashion, right? Or and then this other example, you can see this. Why don't you come here? So can you see this? Do and then n apostrophe s. They both are considered as 2 different words, which is again incorrect, right? So these are the edge conditions where we might be seeing that there's something which is not very standard, and we are not getting the ideal set of results, right? So that is the reason why we have furthermore different components of tokenized module available. Right? So for example, we have something called as for punctuations. Okay, so for punctuations we have 2 different tokenizers available within the tokenized module, called as punctuation word tokenizer, like the punct word tokenizer, or the word punct tokenizer, depending on the version which you are running actually of NLTK, right? So I have imported here the word punct tokenizer, right? And now I'm going to call this sentence again, right? So instead of calling the TreeBankWordTokenizer or the word tokenize, I'm now calling the word punctuation tokenizer, which is again another functionality available within my module, right? So the word punct tokenizer, now when called upon the same sentence, like I can't allow you to go home early. So here, I mean, technically still it's not giving me the right answer. Can you see this? Now it was able to identify the internal punctuation within the word. So that is the reason why now I was given a separate word. And from this can't, I'm getting can first, and then the comma, which I mean the apostrophe, which is a punctuation, and then T, right? And then the other words again. So technically on this, I mean, what I can do here is I can maybe remove the single word characters. I mean, on top of this, I can write another rule on top of word punct tokenizer to remove wherever we don't have any separate thing, right? So, and then for here, maybe I can write something else also, right? So for the word punct tokenizer here, here technically again this is not the one which I'm expecting, right? So to actually take care of this thing, if you have something very specific to take care of, very specific which you want to do, you always have an option of to custom tokenize. So this is my regex tokenizer or my regular expression tokenizer, right? So I can define a rule, like I can define my custom rule, right? In a sentence, and then based on that rule, it's gonna tokenize my data. Like for example, look at this. So I have one sentence like this: hashtag good movie. What a brilliant movie it was. 4 times explanation, then exclamation mark, then had fun. Right? So like you do a WhatsApp text, right? So you write some text basically with a lot of exclamation marks, with a lot of smileys and all that, right? So what if you're trying to do something, some kind of manipulation on top of those text, right? So which is I'm saying more of I would say the tricky sentences to understand, right? So those are the places where we can actually specify your own custom-based rules to tokenize, or your custom-based rule where you're gonna talk about that. Okay, so based on this rule, I'm gonna have the tokens which I want, right? Okay, one question from Piyush. Please organize sessions particularly for coding rounds, not for coding interview. Okay, for beginners, easy to medium level. That's a good feedback, Piyush. Thank you so much. Yes, I'll do that. So you're talking about particularly from the theoretical perspective for the coding round, like not the coding interview. So you're talking about for the coding round specifically, right? Okay, so that's fine. We can do that. And in fact, for the beginners to easy to medium level, right? So we are actually doing a lot of questions on lead code and as well as hacker rank. So we're already doing those, right? I'm not sure if you're following up the channel particularly. So we are already solving those questions. In fact, we are into easy to medium only. I mean, not really the very easy ones. We're doing the medium level questions for now, right? So I mean, if you want me to downgrade to easy also, that's particularly fine. But I felt that and everybody was fine till date, so I was solving the medium level questions. But again, I can take this as an, I mean, if you want us to go with the easy set of questions, so we can do that. That's not a problem. So we are particularly following up two websites here, the competitive programming websites for the coding rounds. That's my lead code and HackerRank for both Python and SQL. So we are doing that on and off. So I'm trying to have at least 2 to 3 days, 2 days at least in a week for the coding round. So that's how I'm planning. So the last week we had full coding round sessions, but this week most probably towards Friday we're gonna have the session. But again, if you have anything else, you can definitely let me know. So, but a good feedback. Thank you so much for that. I'll try to keep that in mind for the easy questions also. Cool. Coming back again. So I was talking about the regular expression tokenizer, right? So here we discussed about your custom rules for your tokenization. So I mean, depending on the use case, depending on the data you have, right, you might be having a requirement to have your own custom-based rule to find the tokens. Because it's a very first step for your NLP process, right? And finding the right set of tokens is the utmost priority, right? So that's where the regular expression tokenizer can be used, right? So I mean, as I was talking about, so we can go for the regular expression session some other time. So maybe I can plan it in the next module. But I mean, if you're aware of how to write the regular expressions, so you can actually custom base your rules, right? For example, here you can look at this. There's 4 for any word. So you have given this list. So list basically all set of words, and then you have a /w means any word, because any word is fine, and this plus just keep on adding the words, right? So it's more of the way of writing the regular expressions, right? So if you're aware of regular expressions, you can write your own custom based tools, and then you can just make it as your function, and you can call this function using the tokenize module and pass up your text, and you can see this here. It has found out like I don't, so now here don't is definitely coming as a no new single word, right? So this is purely possible, guys. So regular expression is for your custom based tokenizer. Depending on your rule, depending on your data which you have, you can always write custom based your rule and try to apply it. So very oftenly used, so I would say regular expression tokenizer is the most oftenly used tokenizer for the real business problems, right? So that is the reason why I've included this here. I use it very oftenly, so I mean, you can definitely try it. So based on the regular expressions, you can have it for your own thing. So likewise, if I have multiple white spaces, so depending on the white spaces, I can have it the tokenizer. So likewise for any random rules, right? So you can have it depending on your sentences, right? So that's for my words, guys, right? So I have multiple ways where I can write the tokenization for my words, like from the sentences. Now for the paragraphs, I have another function available which is sent tokenize, like sentence ka tokenization. Cool. So this function, this module is again available within my tokenize library. So tokenize library, so I'm going to import the sent tokenize, which is again a function where in this it is expecting us to pass a paragraph, not a sentence but a paragraph. So here the objective is to find the tokenized sentences. So as I said, for a paragraph, the smaller chunk of informations are the sentences, right? So again, on internal sentences, you can always pass another loop and do word tokenize again. But for now, let's talk about the sentence tokenize, where I have a paragraph given, and I want to break up these paragraph into the smaller piece of chunks, which is sentences. Cool. So can you see this now? Here I have two sentences here. So these two sentences are basically given into two different components of my list. So on top of my sent tokenize. Cool. So that's how it is. And even for this sent tokenize again, guys, so again it has some punctuations or the grammar the punctuations things issues would be here. So again, for the sent tokenize also, I have an option of the punctuations, like punct sentence tokenizer, right? So I had the punctuation for words also, so punct word tokenizer or a word punct tokenizer. Again, likewise for sentence, again I have punct sentence tokenizer, right? So here in this case, I have already written a local basically text for me. So this is how the text should look like. Text looks like. So it's more of a conversation between a guy and a hipster girl, right? So here I'm gonna pass the punct sentence tokenizer on top of this. So it's a paragraph basically. And then you can see this now here, after passing this entire tokenize on top of the paragraph, I have the individual components, individual lines, individual conversation sentences given in the individual lines here, right? So that's where my components look like. Cool. So very simple, guys. So again, the tokenization is the first point of entry for your I would say in that sense morphological process. So tokenization is my first and the utmost priority important thing. Cool. Now the second, we discussed about the tokenization, right? So now we were talking about the stop words, right? So you remember we discussed about we were doing an example in this case where I had something called as why don't you come here. So and here in this case this hold on, yeah, it's here. So this T and apostrophes are given separately, right? And I told you that maybe we can add one more rule on top of this, and I can remove this apostrophe and T, right, on top of this, right? So that the rule which I was talking about is basically stop words, right? So again, technically from a definition point of view, stop words are basically those words which is present in the text, which is present in your overall context of your text, but somehow it is not contributing to the meaningfulness of my sentences, right? Not contributing to the more of importance of my sentences. For example, suppose if I say my name is Arpit Jain, right? So I have how many words? My is a word, name is a word, is a Arpit Jain. So like 6 words here. Oh, sorry, 5 words here, right? So my name is Arpit. I have 5 words here. What if I remove my and is, right? And then I have name Arpit Jain. Still it is making sense, right? If I just say name Arpit Jain, still making sense. So here my and is somehow the words which is part of my text, but not making any valuable contribution to my meaningful of my sentences, right? Yeah, I understand it's a conjunction. It's more of a connectors for my individual words. But still, if I omit it, it is not making any deadly impact on the meaningfulness of my sentences, right? You're able to get the logics, right? So basically all of the conjunctions, all of the connectors in your English language or in any language, right? All of the connectors in your languages, for example, in English, like a and the, my, your, yours, have, has, had, would, shall, might, right? So all the connectors, right? So all the connectors are basically are the stop words, right? So which is there in the sentences and maybe multiple times, like the, at, the, a, and, like repeated multiple times in your sentences, right? So these are the words which is technically present but not really have a meaningful impact on my sentences, right? So those are called as stop words, right? Aman says make a video to how to install and run C++ on Mac. Okay, interesting. So I would say that is actually not the scope of my playlist. So I'm focusing on Python, data science, and SQL. I would always recommend, so find out a tutor or a lecturer who is giving up the sessions on C++, so maybe he would be the right person for you in that case, Aman. Please don't I mean take me wrong, but I think this is out of scope for us in the class. Cool. Again, coming back. So stop words, right? So this is how the stop words are, right? So more of the things which is available but not really mandatorily important for me, right? So fortunately, I have an option called as NLT, the stop words package. So I can import the stop words, the already inbuilt list of stop words available within the NLTK corpus package. Again, corpus क्या होता है? Corpus बहुत ही frequently used term है NLP में. Corpus is nothing but your group of words. Okay, simple basic समझा रहा हूँ. Corpus कुछ नहीं होता है, group of words को corpus कहते हैं. ठीक है यहाँ पे NLTK में, and technically भी corpus वही होता है. So corpus here is the group of words, right? So again, if somebody is telling you that NLTK corpus is like NLTK corpus or a group of words का module, so a collection of words हैं in the packages, जो module का नाम है वो है corpus. ठीक है? So NLTK corpus के अंदर I have the option called as stop words. Can you see this? So earlier we were importing it from NLTK Tokenize for my tokenizers, right? But now for the corpus, basically the collection of my words, I have another submodule called as corpus. So इस सब library के अंदर corpus के अंदर से मेरे पास एक another function है stop words जिसको हम directly import कर सकते हैं, right? So basically stop words क्या है? List of words, already inbuilt list of words है, right? अब आप मुझसे ये पूछ सकते हो, यार हो सकता है कि मेरे text में कुछ ऐसा हो जो आपके इस list में available ना हो. Very interesting. Yes, that could happen. That could very well happen that the problem statement which you are trying to solve might have some of the other text which is not part of your list of the stop words, inbuilt stop words, right? Very well, it's very valid. And in fact, it happens, I would say 90 of the 100 times when you do the production work, right? Your own business work. It happens very oftenly. So for this, you always have an option to update this list. You can always modify this list based on your own requirement, right? Because just again a list of words, right? List of words में आप उसको append insert तो आपको पता ही है, आप तो append करते ही रहो, आपको पता ही है list में append कैसे करते हैं. It's just a list of words, guys, right? You can always modify this list custom this list depending on your own requirement. So that anyway is not at all an issue. Cool. So आप इसको any day custom कर सकते हो, इसमें किसी भी तरीके का कोई problem नहीं है. So you can always customize this list. Cool. So for example here, अब जैसे मैं आपको दिखा देता हूँ कि इसमें क्या है, and you have multiple languages also being supported here. So for example, I have given the language English. So I'm going to find out the list of stop words from English. So right, even for now, stop words do support multiple languages, even Bengali, and like French, German, Italian. So multiple languages are being supported in this, right? So you can always import and use the available list of words, right? Again, just simple plain see again the looping, right? So I have the English stop words given here, and I have the words like the, now I'm talking about the tokens, right? So again, the tokens are done, so I'm not talking about the tokenization process, that is done. So these are my tokens. I'm a writer. Now I'm passing this on top of my stop words, so I'm going to remove the words which is not which are part of my stop words inbuilt stop words list, right? So after I passed it, I'm left with I writer. So basically am and got removed. So you can see this am is part of my inbuilt list print, and likewise will also be part of my inbuilt list. You can see this Ari, might, and some, himself, between, just, before, to, no, you can see this here, where, then, should have, this, what. So all of these connectors kind of a word, right, which is already inbuilt. So it's already given. I would say again, you might be having all the right set of words which you might be needing for your own work, but still in any circumstances, if you have anything which you need to be modified, so you can always update this list. This is not at all an issue. Cool, simple है, इसमें कुछ भी नहीं है. Again, you can just look at the list of the languages which is support. So you have an option called Leads, so or say Leads. So here, if you call about the Leads, you're gonna have the list of the languages is the support. So you can see this. You have Azerbaijani, you have Bengali, Danish, Dutch, English, Finnish, you have Greek, German, French, Italian, Norwegian, Nepali, so Spanish, Swedish. So whatever language you are actually doing your text computation on, right? So you can always use the available list of words, but again, not limited to these, right? So you can always have your own set of customized sets also being modified. So you can always do that. Cool. So that's the second component, which is top words. Now coming about my word nets, right? So word nets. So word nets kya hai? So word nets mein here we are majorly talking about the similar or the opposite words, like more of a synonyms or the antonyms, right? So here basically we are grouping a particular word from a corpus, which is I would say a collection of words, and we're trying to make the syn sets or the similar sets of my word, right? So for example, dog. डॉग का इनबिल्ट हमारे पास जो आपका डिफॉल्ट कॉर्पस है और द कॉर्पस मॉड्यूल का जो वर्डनेट का मॉड्यूल है आपके पास कॉर्पस सब मॉड्यूल के अंदर में वहां पे आपके पास एक पर्टिकुलर वर्ड का कौन कौन सा सिमिलर सेट ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल है. सो दैट इज समथिंग कॉल्ड एज वर्डनेट. So you're trying to call the syn sets or the similar sets of those words, right? So again, in corpus we have multiple group of words, जिसको हम syn sets कहते हैं और similar sets कहते हैं. So these group of words might be having multiple words within it, right? So for example, I have for example, syn set A, right? So this syn set A might be having 10 internal words, like maybe A1, A2, A3, A4 till A10. So the group name is A1A, but the words in A are like A1, A2 till A10, right? So it's likewise for each of the words, there might be having multiple groups, multiple group of words, multiple syn sets or multiple similar sets, right? So that's how we take this as, right? And each of the words can have the multiple sub words within these. Cool. So again, I'm talking about the group of words. So the module will be corpus, right? So it's not tokenize, it's corpus, right? So I'm gonna call from the corpus the list of the module, which is wordnet. So from the wordnet, I'm gonna have the similar sets available. Cool. So in this similar sets, I have what? So for example, I'm gonna pass dog, right? So I'm gonna pass the word for which I want the similar sets, the inbuilt similar sets available, right? So when I pass the dog, it has inbuilt return these many similar sets for me, right? So can you see this? Dog, frump, dog, cat, Frank, Paul, Andiron, Chase, right? Interesting. We'll see why it has given me some or the other different things, right? Maybe Frank, maybe Paul does not really make sense to me, right? But some or the other way, the syn sets is able to relate this dog with something inbuilt in it, right? We'll try to find that. We'll try to see how exactly dog is being related to Paul or Chase or anything like that. So we'll see that, right? So for the syn sets, so now I have made the syn sets, right? So basically the syn set is a list of the sets, right? So syn set 1, this is my syn set 1. So basically if I just call so now let me just pull this up. Just a minute, let me run this. So if I have to call the first option available here, I can just simply do syn set 0. So I have the first set available because it's just a list, right? So I'm gonna call the list computation on top of this. Cool. So this is my available list. So now, okay, so for example, just look at this for 0 now. Okay, so this is my syn set 0. This is what I'm calling it here. So I have the first function available here, the name. Okay, so I have multiple functions available for syn sets. The first function is name, right? So the name of the syn set is basically this dog.n.01, right? This is the name of my group, right? Group basically the group of words. So dog is my word. For this I'm finding the similar sets, and there are multiple similar sets for this, and the first name of my first similar set is dog.n.01. Okay, I also have an option to run the definition on top of this, right? So for example, so I'm using the 3 here, right? So let's look at the 3 here. So 3 is like the interesting one, cat.n.01, right? So cat is again not really making any I mean from a human's perspective, I'm not able to make out any sense out of it. The white dog is being related to cat. I don't know what cat is, right? Let's find out what is cat. So I have a function call is again definition for this specific Syn set. So if I call definition on top of my group label, which is CAD, so this is given as someone who is morally reprehensible, right? Okay. I mean, I'm talking about an animal here, right? But this is how somehow it is related to someone who is morally reprehensible. Does not really make sense. So how basically this particular definition has been mapped to dog? I mean, I'm not really able to understand that, right? Technically. So again, let's look at the another function example, right? So as soon as I run the example, I saw that I just what just did happen? Just a minute. Okay, I did not write that. Just a minute. Did I do that? Do I have this in here? Right. So my bad. So I have to write this entire thing, or maybe I'll just do one thing. So I'll just again run this, and I'm gonna call Syn Set 3 and then call the definition. Yeah, this is fine. Right. So can you see this? As soon as I ran the example of this CAD, it says "you dirty dog." So basically, someone is abusing someone, right? So here, can you see this? You dirty dog. So this is where technically this has taken from the example. So now this is now giving me the list of a group was somehow where the dog is being related, right? So this is where my things are being built up. So yeah, this is where the question comes: are you a machine or are you human? You're a human, right? So now here your judgment comes whether you want to use this Syn set for your own purpose or not. Technically not, because this is not what you want, right? So this is where the distinction of a machine and a human comes, right? So machine can give you the list of the things. We can always customize this. We can again train the machine to not give me this list later, right? But again, somehow I have to make the machine learn this, right? So here, that's where the human intelligence comes. You have to figure out. So you have the machine is giving you the list of options, but from those options, you have to figure out what is the best for you, but what is required for you, right? So this is where your judgment is important, right? So this is not important for you. So you have to just drop this. This Syn set is not required for you, right? So likewise, you can just look at the definition examples and for your words, and then you can always look out for the synonyms and the antonyms. Cool. So let's talk about your basically the group of words, which is my bad. Sorry. Excuse me. So now I'm going to talk about the hyperonyms. Basically, more specific terms of my individual words. That's where the synonyms and the antonyms comes, right? Let's talk about that. Right. So here, can you look at this? So when instead of calling the Syn sets, I have called on top of Syn sets, I'm going to call the hyperonyms, right? So hyperonyms again are functionality available within my NLTK Corpus package from the WordNet itself. So here where I'm gonna use the specific terminology of it. So the literal meaning of the word, and based on that literal meaning, it's gonna identify the similar set. Those similar sets, the Syn set's gonna be making more logical connect between the sets, right? So here now when I'm gonna call dog, and then under dog I'm gonna call the hyperonyms. Now can you see this? The hyperonyms are making more sense, right? So here bitch, dog, fox, hyena, jackal, wild dog, wolf. So now the individual the Syn sets, the groups which I've got is more logical, making more logical sense, right? So hyperonyms are basically I would say more of a on top function, the extension of my Syn sets, where I'm going to pass the logical meaning of the past word, and based on that, it's going to find out the similar sets for you. Cool. Now, what about the synonyms, right? So now I've talked about the Syn sets, I've talked about the hyperonyms and all that. Now, how to find out? I have for the same word, I have multiple group of words, right? So for example, if I talk about the travel, so it is identified travel, change of location, locomotion, and then travel we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and all that, multiple options, right? So now what are the synonyms? What are the other words available which is meaning similar to travel? Right? So now look at this. So each of these are basically what? Each of these are basically my similar sets, right? The sets of information, right? How do I get the word? So basically travel is a word, right? So for each of this group of words, I have to get the words within these group, right? So to call the words within these groups, we have a function called as lemmas. Okay. So for example, suppose I'm gonna use this syn of 0, so which is I'm gonna call this particular group, and for this group I'm gonna call the function lemmas. So this lemmas gonna give me the group of words available within this group, travel n01s, right? So this is my group, travel n01, and the core word available within these are travel, traveling, and traveling with double L. Okay, so this is what it is available within these lemmas as a lemmas, right? So this is what I have to look at for. Now again, look at this. This is just a list, right? This is just a list for me. What if I have to call this particular word from the lemma? So I can just call this 0, which is this is my first index of my word available, right? The first lemma, right? So I have my first lemma here, and then if I just have to find out the word travel from here, I can just simply do name on top of this, right? So I can find the word travel. Cool. कोई issue है इसमें किसी को? Likewise, I can just keep on calling traveling, double L, and all the other words available within each of my syn sets, right? I can just keep on calling them, right? So there's no technical problem in calling these words, right? I can just pass it over a loop. So I can call this individual syn sets one by one, and then the lemmas available within these one by one, and then just keep on calling the names. I can do that, right? So let's try to do that. So for example, suppose the same thing. So in fact, I've done it here already. So let me just pull it up here and just try to run it one by one. So for example, suppose I have given a list synonym. So I want the synonym of the word travel available from my synonyms, the syn sets, right? So I don't know what all words are available. So what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to call each of my syn sets. So basically the list of syn sets available here, right? And now for now, just look at, so I have my syn sets available. Oh my God. Here, right? So for now, for each of my syn sets, what I'm going to do, I'm going to call the lemmas of it, right? So I'm going to call the lemmas of this syn set. So now for this syn temp, which is my each of the syn sets, I'm going to call the lemmas. So this lem is basically my lemmas, right? So I've appended all of these names of the lemmas into this list, right? So now look at, I'm just going to comment it for now. What just happened? Okay, so I just missed a colon. Now we're gonna do this. So I have the synonyms available here. So for now, for all of the syn sets, whatever lemmas or whatever words are available is now been given in this list, right? Yeah, you can you see this? The travel is repeating like here, 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 right? So multiple times, here again, right? So what I can do is I can just simply do a set of this. So finding the distinct of my synonyms, I can always do that. So just if you get the set of these things, so this is what you have. So for the word travel, I just got my synonyms, right? So you can see this. So these are my list of the word which is meaning similar to travel, right? So now what next? So now we have identified the synonyms, right? You can always have the rules defined where you can find out whether you want to keep these words separately all the other places, or you're just going to club it once and then you're going to count it, or whatever it is, right? Whatever the logic is, right? So if you know that the same word is repeated twice, thrice, or maybe 10 times by some or the other word which is meaning where the meaning is same, so now you can take your respective actions on that, right? So this is where the synonyms plays an important role. So this is where synonyms are important, are very important in your NLP technique, because ultimately, guys, always remember, so core objective here is to convert your text into words, into your numbers, right? हम इतना ड्रामा क्यों कर रहे हैं, इतने सारे पेन क्यों ले रहे हैं? सिर्फ इसका ऑब्जेक्टिव है अल्टीमेटली सबको अल्टीमेटली एक नंबर में कन्वर्ट करना, राइट? एंड उसके पीछे ये पूरे लॉजिक्स हैं, राइट? सो सिमिलर वर्ड्स फाइंड आउट करने के लिए हम सिनोनिम का आपको बताया. But for the antonyms, we have the direct function called as antonyms. Okay, so for example, again, logic same hai. And now I'm gonna, for example, I'm gonna call the word good. So good के अंदर multiple syn sets होंगे. So now look at this for now. So I'm gonna call this. So I have this good. So now look at this. So good के अंदर इतने सारे similar sets हैं, right? अब हर एक similar sets के अंदर multiple lemmas होंगे, multiple words होंगे. I can just keep on calling the lemmas one by one, right? So that's what I have done. For example, I've called this good n02 for now, right? So good n02, this is my syn 1, and I've called the lemmas. And then lemmas में क्या होगा मुझे? Now look at this for now. So for example, I'm gonna call, so good n02 का मैं lemma को call कर रहा हूँ. So lemmas में मेरे को क्या दिख रहा है? Good दिख रहा है, goodness दिख रहा है, right? Again, I'm gonna just call say 0, so which is basically my what? So this is basically my the first lemma, which is good, right? So will give me this. So I have my first lemma, and then in this first lemma I can just directly call the function antonym. Okay, if we're going to call the function antonym, antonyms, my bad. Okay, if we're going to call the antonyms for that particular lemma, it's going to return the opposite word of it, right? So which is again a list of words, right? So again, I have to call a particular element within this. So I have to specify 0, which is again the first word, which is giving me this lemma. And if I have to find the exact name of my lemma, the word, I've just called the function name, right? So this is how we're going to build up my word. So basically, if I have to find out the goodness or the good, I can just keep on calling the syn sets, the lemmas, respective looping, and call the antonym function, again the looping, and then call the name on top of that, so I can just have it in the form of my individual words, right? So plain simple. Again, I can just do that same thing in the loop, right? So I can just keep on calling things in the loop. I've just done the same thing here. So I'm calling the syn sets. So basically, again, I've defined a list here. For all of my syn sets increase, I'm going to call individual lemmas. And again, for each of these lemmas, there's a separate condition here. So if the antonym X, because there are most of the times you will not get an antonym defined here, right? So for example, if you're going to use say a synonym of say 0, right? So you might there's no lemma in this. Okay, so might not be having anything here, right? So yeah, so you can see this. I have an empty list, right? So I have a condition here which is say like if that particular word antonym does not exist, just break out. If it exists, now in that case only append the 0th index of my antonym, right? So that's what we can always do that. And if we just keep on appending it, we can have the set and the overall list also. So the set says decrease, decrement is basically my antonym for the word increase available in the word net. Cool. Again, this is again a list, guys. This is again just a list. So you can always modify this. Again, very much customizable. So you can always modify this depending on your requirement. If there is any specific word which you are forcing in your text that which is not available in the corpus by default, and you can always so I mean you can just run it on top of your text, and then eventually you can find out if that list is not updated. So you can always add manually add later, customize the list based on your requirement, right? So very much okay with that. So that's how the synonyms and the antonyms work, guys. Any questions in this? Quickly, I'm okay to take up your questions. Cool. If not, then we can actually move to the next very interesting topic. We've already seen this, but I would like to refresh this again. So we were talking about the stemming and the lemmatization. Very important topic, guys. Very frequently asked questions in the interviews also. Whenever you go for a data science interview, right? If NLP is a requirement there, trust me, this question will be asked to you for sure. There is no doubt that this question will not be. Very common question and very important concept. What is the difference between stemming and lemmatization? Right? So technically, if you guys are aware, they both are actually one or the other thing. Okay. So दोनों का I would say core objective same है. दोनों का core objective same. The reason why these two things were made the logical reason for that was same, right? So here the core objective is somehow we are trying to kind of shorten the word. Like for example, I have multiple verb forms in the word. Like for example, say eat, right? So eat has like eating, eaten, will eat. So I have multiple verb forms of the words, right? So here the thing is, again, technically all of these words are making the same sense, right? Eat, basically eat ही मेरा core word है वहाँ पे, right? So stemming and lemmatization का मेरा objective है to reduce the multiple verb forms of my words into their respective shorter formats, right? उसके भी again for example suppose अब eat का है, suppose eaten, eats, eating, let's say 10 times likha hua hai, right? But technically the meaning of the word is eat, right? So I can just remove all the other verb forms of my sentences and I just use eat once, right? It will still make sense. So because again I'm going to talk about the tokens here, right? So don't think from a word perspective, think from a tokens perspective, right? So I can just remove the other verb forms and just keep the one, or maybe just keep a counter of say eat 10 times, right? So something like that, right? So that's again possibility. So here that's where the core objective of stemming and lemmatization comes, right? Stemming क्या करता है? Stemming it basically removes the suffixes. Suffixes क्या है? जैसे eating, so ing is my suffix, right? Eats, s is my suffix, right? Eaten, en is my suffix, right? So stemming क्या करता है? There are some hidden or say inbuilt rules based on which it's gonna reduce the suffix of my the words basically, right? So it is not making any logical connections between my root words. It is just trimming off my suffixes. Stemming क्या है? Basically trimming off. So you are sorry, my bad. Trimming your word, right? So you're removing the suffixes. So that's what stemming does. Okay. Lemmatization, on the other hand, it does not trim off your word. It does not just blindly keep on trimming off, removing the suffixes. Rather, it tries to find out the actual root word for your verb form, right? So, for example, eats, right? So, eats ka root form hai eat. Eating ka bhi root form hai eat, right? So, that's what it takes the grammatical or a dictionary root word for your verb form, right? It does not simply blindly remove the suffixes. It use the dictionary meaning of your individual words and find out the root word, right? So that's how it basically works. Cool. So that's the core difference between stemming and lemmatization, guys. Again, stemming, maybe we have multiple ways, multiple techniques through which we can do the stemming. So we have something called as Porter stemming, Lancaster stemming, snowball stemming, or the regular expression stemming. Regular expression by default आपको समझ में आ रहा होगा कि ये मेरा खुद का custom based rules है, आप इसमें भी define कर सकते हो. Generally most frequently जो use होता है वो Porter, Lancaster और snowball stemming. Difference क्या है? Technically अगर मैं difference बताऊं, is the rules which are being used internally in this, that is a difference, right? Technical difference तो वही है. अब फॉर एग्जाम्पल जो आपका पोर्टर स्टेमिंग है, इट्स अ वेरी ओल्ड फैशन एंड वेरी जेंटल टेक्निक. सो प्लेन सिंपल ट्रिमिंग होगा इसमें. सो अगेन यू कैन ओनली गेट टू नो दीज बाय रनिंग इट. आपको ऐसे नहीं पता चलेगा बिकॉज यू कैन नॉट जस्ट रिमेंबर ऑल ऑफ दीज स्टेमिंग रिजल्ट्स, राइट? इट्स टेक्निकली नॉट पॉसिबल. सो आपको इसको रन करना पड़ेगा एंड देन यू हैव टू फिगर आउट कि उसमें क्या आउटपुट आ रहा है, राइट? सो दैट्स बेसिकली हाउ इट वर्क्स. So Here, Porter stemming, Lancaster stemming, and Snowball stemming. Snowball stemming basically more advanced. So here again, it's basically oftenly termed as the Porter 2 stemming. So more of a second version of Porter stemming. So that's what Snowball stemming is, right? More advanced. And likewise, Lancaster bhi aapka advanced hi hai. So more I would say strong in terms of the rules, right? Developed by the Lancaster University. That's why it's called as Lancaster stemming, right? But again, it's they are nothing but the rules, right? So rules of trimming off my the suffixes from the words. That's what these stemming techniques are. Cool. Again, इसको हम run करके देखते हैं कि difference क्या आ रहा है. And then let's look at this. देखो, for example, ये देखो यहाँ पे आपको समझ में आएगा. For example, I have the word 8, right? So 8, this is the word 8. So now can you see this? I'm passing it over Porter, Lancaster, and the Snowball stemmer, right? And can you see the difference? Porter and Snowball is giving me the same result, 8, whether Lancaster is giving me the word at, right? Technically, is 8 का root word क्या है? Eat, right? अब अगर आप इसी 8 को lemmatization में pass करोगे, it will return you eat, right? But stem क्या कर रहा है? Stem सिर्फ suffixes को remove करता है. Porter and Snowball में it did not find any suffix in this. It did not remove anything. That is how the rules are defined in this, right? But in Lancaster, I'd say it's more strong. It's more strong in terms of the rules. It remove e also, right? And give you add. Logically, it does not really make sense to me. So इसका इस output का कोई logical meaning नहीं है. So many a times stemming में क्या issue होता है कि जो the output which you are getting right, it sometimes will not make any meaningful word. That word even won't make any sense. It does happen because it just blindly trims off the suffixes, right? So that's the problem in stemming. You can see the differences. For example, now I'm going to call fairly, right? So fairly, I'm going to call on top of stem of Porter, Lancaster, and Snowball. So can you see this? Porter में तो fairly को fairly कर दिया, Fairli, right? And then for fairly, for the Lancaster and the Snowball, it has done the fair. So basically it has removed the ly component of my stemming, right? So likewise, loudly got converted to ludli in Porter, right? So likewise for the Lancaster and the Snowball, it's loud, right? So every word might be having a different output. So you you're not supposed to remember these outputs, not required. Just run it and check which is giving you the better results, right? So from where you're getting the more closer to the reality results. Okay, so Milind has a question. Hey, I came here to say I started your sequel series, okay, and currently in the 5th video. Can you tell how much weightage it has during the technical interview? Good question. So Milind, okay, so technical interviews basically two type के होते हैं, right? So sometimes if you're asked only the conceptual parts, right? So only the verbal components, like more of a theoretical concepts, that should be more than enough, right? So I don't think there is anything beyond that. Yeah, there's something called as procedures and all that, so that is not required. I'm not sure if you're the beginner or the more experienced guy, so not required like in the very early stage of your careers. But again, we talk about, again, in some of the odd cases, the sequels are more towards the queries, right? So they might ask you to actually write the queries, right? So that's where the practice comes, right? So we are still doing that. So I mean, practice is a never-ending process, right? So you can just keep on practicing. So we are actually solving as many problems as we can. So if we talk about only the conceptual questions, the videos up till date should be fine. But if you talk about the actual problems which they will ask you sometimes to solve it on spot, so you need practice for those, right? So I mean, theories and the practicals are two different things, right? So you can always relate that. So for those actual practical questions, so we are solving it every other day. So you can join us live for the live problem solving and get your queries cleared. Great. That was a good question. Thank you so much for asking that, Milind. But coming back again, so you can see this ludli is actually not even a word, right? It's not even a word. So that's where some of the drawbacks of stemming comes. So as I was talking about, so sometimes these words does not even make sense, right? So they're just because blindly removes the suffixes, right? So that's based on certain rules, definitely. So sometimes these rules are strong, sometimes these rules are gentle, but ultimately the issues over stemming is the words might not even make sense some of the times, right? So that's where lemmatization comes. It's more advanced technique. So lemmatization is actually finding the dictionary root word for your individual tokens which you're passing over the lemmatization, right? So that's this is where it is important. So you're actually making the dictionary meaning of your root words, right? So this is why it is important. So again, the wordnet lematizer is the function available. So we're going to import this from the stem. So here the submodule name is stem, right? So it also I forgot to show you this. So even all of these components, the Porter stemmer or the Lancaster or the Snowball stemmer, they all are imported from the Corpus stem, right? So submodule stem. So we used Tokenize, we used what Corpus for our wordnets, and then we use for the stop words also we used Corpus, and then we use stem. We are using stem for the stemming and the lemmatization. Okay, so stem के अंदर ही आपका Porter, Lancaster and the Snowball stemmer है, and also the wordnet lemmatizer is also available basically in this stem module itself, right? So अगर आप देखो, अगर आप lematize को books के ऊपर pass हुआ, is giving me book. So like for example, can you see this? So I'm just gonna compare the lematize and the stem here. So believes, for example, is returning me BELIEV. So it has removed ES, right? It has just removed ES. On the other hand, lemmatization is for the beliefs is giving me the root word, which is belief, IEF, right? This is my root word, right? So this is how it is. This is where it's more advanced. It's actually giving me the dictionary root word for my the actual lemmas which I'm passing, right? So guys, but again, do not get confused. It's not like lemmatization अगर एडवांस है तो वही हर टाइम यूज करना चाहिए. Again, you have to find your own logic. You have to understand based on your requirement what is needed. So you might be needing based on your requirement stemming. So you, in your case, maybe snowball stemmer would work, right? And you don't even need lemmatization. Maybe lemmatization is giving you the wrong answer, right? So you have to technically figure out. That's where the human intelligence comes, right? So machine can only be customized based on the requirement, right? So machine has to learn before to give you the results, right? You can always customize the machine also based on that, but for your own individual separate problems, you have to figure out the logic. So you have the options. Stemming, may you have 4 options. Lemmatizations, you have an option again, right? So you have to figure out what you need and which is giving you the more closer to reality outputs and the results, right? So that's where your stemming and the lemmatization funda comes. Cool. Makes sense, guys? You can always just keep on checking that. Okay. Any questions till now? Any questions, guys? Anybody is having any concerns, any doubt in this? I hope I'm making sense, right? And that this is not going way beyond your logical understanding. Cool. So I hope this is making sense, guys. So what we can do now is maybe we can stop for the day. So we have already covered the things which we wanted to cover. So what we can do is we can finish up the remaining functionality tomorrow, and then we can go for the maybe a live demo of the actual implementation for each thing step by step, right? So I'll do that. It's not like I'm going to do any other thing in that demo. Okay, so it's just the connection of the dots, the functions which I've explained here, right? So those function again, how we're going to connect those dots. So we can think of that also. Cool. So that's about it, guys. So with this, we're gonna wrap up for the day. I'm gonna give your evening back, so you can always okay, revise this. So any questions, even from today, you can always come back tomorrow. So we'll be going live from now on at 10 p.m. So we'll be seeing each other on the weekdays at 10 p.m. So Let's meet again tomorrow at 10 p.m. with the remaining set of functionalities available in NLP. So we're gonna cover that, and then again I'm gonna be open for all set of questions if you have any. So we'll try to cover the functions tomorrow and try to finish that. Cool. Great. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you so much for so wonderful for such wonderful questions, and thank you so much for being patient and listening to me. So see you tomorrow at the same time, 10 p.m. Thank you so much. Till then, happy learning. Bye.